Hello and welcome. Thank you for joining us on Business Incorporated, coming to you live from Lagos, Nigeria. I'm Chimize Obi Iwagu. On the program today, Egypt picks a consortium as lead managers and book runners for a stock market listing of a state oil company, the country's first initial public offering of a state-owned company for 12 years. South Africa's state power utility Eskom signs a $1.5 billion loan agreement with China Development Bank to finance the Medupi coal power plant. Plus, Malawi's central bank cuts lending rate by 400 basis points to 18%. Let's get started now, and we are beginning with the markets. The market in Egypt was the only one looking up at intraday amongst the markets we're tracking on the program in Africa. That market was up 0.55% after the government picked a consortium led by CI Capital to act as lead managers and book runners for a stock market listing of oil company ENPPI, the country's first initial public offering of a state-owned company in 12 years. The consortium also includes Jefferies International Limited and Emirates NBD Capital Limited. The government is launching an IPO program that will offer shares in dozens of state-owned companies over the next 3 to 5 years in areas such as petroleum, services, chemicals, shipping, maritime and real estate to help boost state finances. Egypt aims to raise up to $150 million from the ENPPI offering. And looking at the other markets, there the numbers are in the red. Nigerian stock market was down 0.23% as at midday. The market in South Africa was looking down 0.16%, and Kenya closed down 0.35%. In the Middle East, shares in Saudi Arabia cement and steel sectors surged in early trade after the government cut export tariffs. But Gulf stock markets were mostly weak after a slide in oil prices. The Saudi government said it was cancelling all export duties on steel for 2 years to encourage local industries and would slash cement export tariffs by 50%. Saudi index was off 0.60% at intraday, and the numbers are showing Qatar's index fallen 0.69%. 4 Arab states decided in a meeting in Cairo on Wednesday not to slap fresh sanctions on Qatar for now, but voiced disappointment at its negative response to their demands and warned of the possibility of further action against Doha. In Dubai, the index was down 0.47%, hit by a 1.4% drop in shares of blue-chip Emma Properties and a 0.9% fall in Pear Damac Properties. In Abu Dhabi, Dana Gas fell 1.4% after reports that London's High Court planned to hold a full hearing in September on efforts by the company to restructure $700 million of its Islamic bonds. A High Court judge upheld an interim injunction there, blocking holders of the sukuk due to mature in October from enforcing claims against Dana. But he also ordered Dana to cancel an injunction in a court in the Emirate of Sharjah and seek a stay of its proceedings there. The Abu Dhabi index was down 0.80%. In Europe, markets there moved lower in morning trade as investors digested the minutes from the Federal Reserve's latest meeting and monitored geopolitical events. Let's bring in Conrad Buse now for an update on the market. Good afternoon, Conrad. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Hello, Jimmy. Good afternoon, and good afternoon to everyone watching us in Nigeria.
Right, Conrad. You're welcome. The European Central Bank will today release minutes of its last policy meeting a day after the U.S. Fed meeting minutes. How are the markets trading these central bankers' minutes?
Well, Jimmy, I think it's enough to just check out the graph right behind me. Look at this. Look at the German share index. It's plunging and slowly moving downwards. The news from those minutes were not really well received by most investors, and I can tell you why. The report from the European Central Bank just came out a couple of minutes ago. It sort of fueled the speculation that eventually the European Central Bank might really start tapering, might really start taking some of this money off the table, which it started to give out as an emergency measure during the financial crisis and the recession. The same with the Federal Reserve. Of course, the minutes there also show that the Fed is ready to start tapering. The minutes show that the Federal Reserve's monetary policy makers are a bit divided over when to start that, but the question that it is about to start, that eventually the Fed will reduce its super high balance sheet, that's a given. The consequence of this is that bond yields are rising. The German 10-year government bonds yield has climbed to the highest point in 18 months. The euro-dollar exchange rate is on the up, and equities are being sold today. Something else the Federal Reserve monetary policy makers had to say, they are concerned that even though interest rates have been rising, they say that some investors still go into riskier assets, and that's a bit of a contradiction, but it is seen as a hint by the Fed's monetary policy makers that they think parts of the markets might be overheating.
Now, aside from the minutes from those central bankers, Trump is on the news, and he is in Poland now. How much attention are the markets, from currencies to equities and commodities, paying to Trump's speech at NATO meeting? And of course, he will be in Germany for the G20 summit.
Well, President Trump is likely to like to hear that everyone on the financial markets is paying attention to what he will, do and say in Hamburg at the G20 meeting. Before this meeting, Trump traveled to Poland, and there Trump already had to say a few, tough